I want to do a story that I do not want to miss today because I think it's very, very important. It comes from the Washington Post, and it was on Sunday. And it's about how we treated Abu Zubaydah and the results we got from them. Now, do you remember who Abu Zubaydah was? He's down at Guantanamo Bay, and President George W. Bush had publicly described him as, quote, Al-Qaeda's chief of operations. Wow, that's pretty significant. And he said he was a trusted associate of Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden and a major figure in the planning of September 11th, 2001. Well, the Washington Post has talked to a lot of the people who did the interrogations of Abu Zubaydah, the CIA, intelligence officials, and former administration officials. And the result is, no, he wasn't. He wasn't any of those things. So, who was he, and how did it come to be that we became convinced that Abu Zubaydah was the end-all, be-all? First of all, what he really was basically a travel agent. Now, that doesn't mean he wasn't a bad guy, okay? He was a travel agent for terrorists, okay? So let's be clear on that. He would gather people, and he would bring them to certain camps, like the Kaldin camp. Now, the Kaldin camp is a camp that was left over from the Mujahideen. And, in fact, Zubaydah had gone to Afghanistan to join the fight when the Mujahideen were fighting the Soviet Union. So he's old school like that, right? And he did have a tenuous agreement with Al-Qaeda. He said, look, we train these guys to be Mujahideen at the Kaldin camp. And then after we're done with them, if you want to recruit them for Al-Qaeda, go ahead and do it, right? So a guy like this, should we have him, arrested, and should we have him locked up? I think yes, right? For how long, under what charges? Those are interesting and important questions, but I guarantee you they have answers, right? But apparently he actually had a strained relationship with Al-Qaeda and with Osama bin Laden, and that they didn't get along very well. And whether he was officially even in Al-Qaeda is an open question. In fact, many people say he wasn't. Now, as to whether we should detain him, I'm not that interested about that. But as to how significant he is, then of course that's very, very relevant, right? Well, how about the issue of was he a mastermind behind September 11th? No, in fact, what the CIA learned is that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had approached Abu Zubaydah earlier in the 1990s and said he had a plan to drive a smaller plane when he was less ambitious, I guess. And Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was the mastermind behind 9/11, to drive a smaller plane into the World Trade Centers. And Zubaydah told him, in the words of Sarah Palin, thanks, but no thanks. He said, no, I got no interest in that plot. But he did say, look, you know what, I could pass you on to a guy who might, Osama bin Laden. So now you want to make a case on that. That's a legitimate case, right? So now, but we had all this information before we waterboarded Zubaydah. But the administration was not appeased. And they said, no, he's got to know more. He's got to know more. So they put pressure on the intelligence officials to go further and further with the interrogation. And finally, they authorized waterboarding, right, and other forms of torture. So they waterboarded Zubaydah, and what did they get? Well, they got a whole heap of new information. Hey, look at that. Oh, he said, oh, yeah, I got this guy over there and that guy over there, and they were plotting this and they were plotting that. And there's a guy named Jose Padilla, and he's a dirty bomber, and he's going to set off radioactive bombs throughout the United States. And they're like, okay, let's go get him, right? And that's why we arrested Jose Padilla, and that's why they call him a dirty bomber all this time, because they had tortured Zubaydah to get this information. Well, the CIA and other intelligence officials and the FBI chased these leads and spent millions upon millions of dollars and countless amount of time, and in the end, they concluded that not one of them was true. Why? Because Zubaydah had already given all the information he had, and when they tortured him, he said anything and everything to get them to stop. He's like, what do you want to hear? You want to hear that we're plotting against the United States? Sure, I'll make it up. You want to hear that I know the names of the people who are going to do bombs throughout the United States? Sure, I'll make it up. I'll do anything to get you to stop drowning me. And there are some killer quotes in this Washington Post story. Here, I'll give you one of them. Here's a former intelligence official saying, we spent millions of dollars chasing false alarms. And the Senate Intelligence Committee, back in 2006 when the Republicans ran the Senate, had pressed the CIA for specific examples because Dick Cheney always says, oh, man, if you knew what we knew. and how much information we got by doing these enhanced interrogation techniques. So the Senate asked, when the Republicans were in charge, hey, could you give us some examples so we could use it, right? One buddy to another, and so we could tell the Democrats, you see this, look at all these examples. When pressed, the CIA provided absolutely no tangible proof of anything that had been unraveled or a plot that had been found out because of the enhanced interrogation techniques. All they had was all the things that did not work. And it is not surprising at all to those of us who understand that torture is not an efficient way to get information out of people. It's a very efficient way to get made-up information. And to this day, you know, Cheney's out there saying, oh, no, we just tortured him a little bit more. What a fool, an absolute fool.